Newcastle United play Spurs at St James's Park tomorrow. Who will come out on top? And who has the best chance of winning more trophies this season? Let's find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Brilliant from Cher. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Cher
Good evening, folks. I hope you are all right. And I hope you're blessed no matter where you are, what you're doing, where you're listening from, if you're about to go to sleep, if you're about to wake up, if you're watching on the big screen TV, or if you're just listening off your phone. Well, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, listening to Toon Tactics TV. And God bless you all, folks. I hope you are all well. Already good to see folks in the chat. Aaron, good evening to you. God bless you. Good evening all. And guys, I'm super excited about tonight's show because we've got special guest Harry Scarfe coming on from Harry Scarfe TV. He's going to be giving us the opposition view, the Spurs view, in terms of what's happening and giving us context on all things Spurs. And he's going to come on in about 45 minutes to do that. So we're going to be doing the game breakdown, a tactical review for the game as well. But before that, I want us to do a match review for that Fulham game. And if you believe it or not, I literally just watched the game, the replay today. I didn't get to watch it on the day as well. So I was at a wedding, but I caught the last 5-10 minutes on the funny internet and had to just watch the sofa score. Had to pause everything and just watch the sofa score. That last injury time, 7 minutes, I just had to wait and for the whistle to go. But thankfully, we got it over the line. Good to see you, Ginesta. God bless you. Been a while. Hope you're well. So thankful for the win, thankful for the victory. But how did we get there? How did we get the win? Let's talk about it. And I want to get you guys' views and opinions as always, folks. I want to see what you guys thought about the game. And how you guys feel about it and everything else. I'm gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about also we're gonna add a little bit of context of what we talked about prior to the game. Obviously, kind of talking about some of the, like I said, I feel like looking at our I was saying to you guys before, like our underlying metrics and everything else, I thought that Newcastle are on the upward trajectory. So let's see if that bears out in the stats and all other things as well. So you guys are already saying in the chat, Aaron says, I'm sorry, Philip, you had to watch the replay. It was a game worth missing. We were shocking apart from the first 20 minutes. Okay. So Aaron didn't much like the game. Ginesta says, thanks, I'm well. Toon, yeah, just been busy the last few months. Yeah, it gets like that. All right, well, let's see in terms of the game itself. I had some stuff. I need to upload my some Opta Analyst, and let's get a general overview of the game before we kind of get into the nitty and the gritty of it. Is this the right screen? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, let me make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you can. Make sure I can see the chat as well while you guys are talking. By the way, good to see you, Register Kev. God bless you, sir. Big up, Phil. Hope you're good. I don't see below me in the table, so I don't know how your team's doing. Do you watch Europe as well? Does that mean you don't watch Champions League anymore, Register? Because I don't know who's not in Europe either. Oh, and the League Cup. Did you watch the League Cup? Did you know it was on? Good to see you, Register Kev. Sophie, good to see you. God bless you. And the last 20 minutes. Okay. So folks weren't feeling the game. I won't lie to you guys. I liked the game, and I liked what I saw from us. I'll be straight up about it. I liked what I saw in the general sense, but I'm keen to see why you guys didn't like the game. So let's look. Let's first off, how did I want to do it? Did I want to go with this? All right, let's just look at the stats first. There was an quick overview. Like I said, I know a few of you are not weren't feeling the game. I was. I won't lie to you. So I think in like just kind of in summary for me before I get into it is I think in most parts it was an it was fairly an end to end game, though I feel like Newcastle edged it. And you do get that in terms of the stats and kind of the overall chance creations and everything else. I think we had to make changes to get to from the Benfica game. We couldn't play Fulham the same way we played with Benfica. And the changes obviously with Ramsey not playing and Joe Linton playing instead. So that leads me to the sofa score part actually. With Ramsey, with where is it? Here's the lineups. With Ramsey played previously. I thought Miley and Ramsey would stay and Bruno, but it made sense when we're going to talk about this. Joe Linton played a vital role together with Gordon actually in protecting Dan Burn, who you can see according to SofaScore didn't have the greatest of games. I think they both did a good job in protecting him, shielding him, and actually Miley did as well. From the likes of Traore and Tete, especially from getting up the field. And that was going to be key. A lot of our work, a lot of our passing was going through these central areas here. And I'm going to bookmark the central area part, because I am going to come back to it. And because that was the important part of what we were going to do in terms of being able to, I guess, two things we had to do is protect our fullbacks, Dan Burn in particular, and we were going to attack in central areas, which is mostly, well, the first goal, especially where the goal came from. So let me just get onto the overall stats, quick breeze through it a little bit, and then get into the nitty gritty of the thing itself. Where is it? Here we go. Share this tab instead. So yeah, we had a bit more of the possession. Fulham lost more possession in their own half, nearly twice as much as we did. And I think that's because of a lot of our pressing was pretty good in that half as well. Though we lost most of the possession in the mid, we lost about 6 more, 55 to their 49 possession in midfield. In the midfield third, I do think that's because we were playing a lot of our passes through the midfield as well. Our duels are literally the amount of duels are literally the same, but we won more successful duels, we won more ground duels, we won more aerial duels. We just had one more successful dribble than they did. Maybe the Sulu one at the end was the one that did it. So again, very, very close. Very, very, very close. What about our passing? And I know there was a lot of talk from the what's the gentleman's name? True Geordie. I think he came up with a tweet or a message on X saying that essentially Newcastle didn't pass very well. With Tamada didn't get the ball. Where are the crosses? We didn't play like a Premier League team. And I know it's a few of you in the chat feel the same way. Well, let's get onto the passes first. Let's break it down. Newcastle had 452 passes. 44 of them were long passes with a 9.7 success rate. So we didn't do too many long passes at all, really. But our passing accuracy, that's all of our passes put together, was 84.3%. I think he was the first or second, top 2, top 3 highest out of all the games played in the league on that weekend. So the whole thing about us not keeping possession very well, the stats say not so much. That's not true. I think Newcastle did keep possession fairly well, but we took a lot of risks passing through the central area. So passing to the opponent's half, Newcastle had, out of those passes, we had 220 passes into the opponent's half. Our passing accuracy in the opponent's half was 75%. Again, we was at 60, 65%. at the start of the season, that has improved. Total passes into the final third, 123 of those 420 passes were in the final third. So 1 in 4, literally 1 in 4 of our passes was in the opposition half, which showed our attacking intent, in my opinion. And that actually bears out in the shots and chances that we create. We're going to talk about in a moment. So our passing accuracy in the final third in our opponent's half was 72.4% in comparison to 67% of Fulham. So we were better not only at holding the ball overall in possession, but also better at holding the ball in the opposition half. We had the more forward passes. We were attacking consistently as well, which is good to see. Forward passes. So 65% of our total passes were forward passes. We were looking to win the game. I don't know how they do through balls, because I saw so many through balls, especially from our defense. I don't know how we only got one through ball. I don't know if they just count the Jacob Murphy one as a through ball. I don't know how they count through balls, but that one surprised me a little bit. Penalty area entries. We were in. So I don't know if that's Opta's way of saying touches in opposition box, but we've got 23 touches in the opposition box. Let me see what quickly what SofaScore says about touches in the opposition box. Is it if they got something similar? Is it does Opta and Alice? Is that the same thing? Corner, kicks, shots on target, hit work, inside box, shots inside the box. Okay, so SofaScore has us with 35 touches in the opposition box. So maybe Opta Analyst means literally the entry, how many times you get inside the entry box into the penalty box, because you can still pass the ball inside the opponent's half, isn't it? So Opta has us 35 touches in the opposition box. Again, showing attacking intent. I'm going to get to the chat in a moment. Attack. Speaking of attack, obviously we scored 2. They scored 1. We had 18 shots to their 12. We had 7 of those that were on target. 5 of those that were blocked. 2 of those that were headed shots. 8 shots outside the box. 10 shots inside the box. Shot accuracy, excluding block shots, 53%. Fulham had 71%, so they're a lot more. Looks like they had a better quality of shots. Let's see if they had the same quantity of us, if that decreases. Shooting accuracy, 38.9 to us, 41 to there. So not too much actually. Key passes, 40. We had twice as many key passes as Fulham did. So there's a lot of positive metrics there, in my opinion. And lastly, the defensive ones, and we'll go to the chat in a moment, is tackles. Fulham made the more tackles because we had a little bit more of the possession. Tackle success rate, we had 64% success rate to their 57. Again, intensity in our work, where Fulham had the more interceptions. We had the more recoveries, 52 to 48 recovery challenges. Attacking third recovery, so recovery challenge from the attacking third, 6 to us, 3 to them. Again, because we were doing most of the attacking. Defensive third recovery, so in their own half, Fulham had to make 29, we had to make 21. Midfield third recovery, we had to make 25 to their 16. Again, because I believe most of our attacks were through the central midfield area. So a lot of positives there. Now, before I get into the passing map, I'm going to go to the chats, but I want to show something. I'm going to go to the chats. In fact, let me see what I'm saying here a little bit here. Obviously, SofaScore has most of the play between both teams in that central area, 43% to 24% in our box, 33% in the Fulham box. But most of the action was in those areas, right? High concentration of play. Newcastle, a little bit more on our right flank with Murphy and with Bruno Gomes. And who's on the right? Kieran Trippier. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And I wanted to also talk about how our midfielders were playing and then get into the passing map. So let me get into before I get to the chat. Let me see where is the let me come out of this. Let me get into that. So I'll get into that into a moment. But let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. So at the moment, like I was saying, I feel like it was a good home game from Newcastle. I think we were deserved victors. We edged it, especially from an attacking perspective. Created the more chances, the more shots, the more chances, the more entries and touches in the opposition box. The more what was I going to say? The more final third entries, passing in the opposition half as well. Our overall passing was at 84, 85%. So whatever it was said about our passing being poor is inaccurate, essentially. So let's see why maybe at the same time what folks are saying about why I didn't enjoy the game and what it was about as well. But for me, like I said, I can only speak from my perspective. I thought Newcastle had a decent game so far, and I think we're deserving victories. Our overall XG, we're going to talk about XG as well in a moment, was at 2.14. Was at 2.14, so we were very much in line with the 2 goals that we scored. So we deserve those 2 goals. Those two goals weren't lucky. Those 2 goals weren't against the run of play or anything like that. We deserve those 2 goals. Fulham had 1.53, so they deserved their 1 goal for sure. And some might say unlucky to get the second goal, but I don't think they did enough to do that, even watching the game, but also from their metrics as well. So we deserve to win the game, in my opinion. We created enough to win that game. And the other thing I want to add before I'll get to the first, I'll get to Liam's and I'll work down in terms of the chats is. It's been noted that out of the 9 English teams who played in Europe, and if Register Kev is here, he wouldn't know about Europe at the moment. God bless you, Register Kev. It was Newcastle and Arsenal are the only teams to have won both their European and Premier League team. So playing in the Champions League and the 3-day turnaround, going back to the Premier League and winning both their games. That's Newcastle and Arsenal, not Man City, not Liverpool, none of those big teams, elite teams. Newcastle and Arsenal. So I will just add that as well to that. Liam says 90 minutes was tough, sloppy passing, good in parts, but only one of our best midfielders played clear. But only one of our best midfield played clear-cut chances we deserved to win. Let me know what you mean by about one of our best midfield play. Let me know. I didn't get there if you get a chance, but yes, we deserve the win. We created the more clear-cut chances. We didn't include the Jacob Murphy one-on-one. Literally, Voldemort hitting the post from point-blank range. Bruno, second half, the head over the bar. Again, I would say that's point-blank range too. I wish to have buried that game a lot sooner than it happened. And look, goals change games as well. Ginesta says it's hard to control a game with the ball with players like Murphy and Burn who turn over possession constantly. A better team than Fulham would punish us. Yes. Let me if you okay. So where I'm struggling because I've just watched the game. Whenever I've seen, for instance, if Murphy was to lose the ball, it was never in a dangerous zone. And Murphy typically has to get the ball into dangerous areas. That's his job. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, Murphy is Xavi Iniesta on the ball. Well, he's not. But I didn't feel that we was that sloppy in possession. And again, 84% accuracy overall says that. 73, 75% accurate passes in the final third. I need to know a little bit more what folks are, what instances, and I guess what folks are saying a little bit. I'm kind of pushing back on it a little bit because of what True Geordie said. and I just felt it was not in line with what the team had done. It made it look like those type of comments made it look like we were lucky for the win. We didn't deserve to win. If you're saying we didn't even look like a Premier League team, then what did we look like? Like we didn't. All the metrics, not only the goals, obviously, which is the most important stat, but all the metrics clearly say that we deserve to win that game. We deserve to win that game. We play better than Fulham in most on most metrics, honestly. So I don't know. And if you're going to judge us on passing and accuracy, it was I don't know. It was fairly okay. It was like the second or third best in the country at that time. So I don't know. I don't know. Liam says another day. It's 4-0 by heart. Yeah, honestly, it should have been 2-0 in the first 5 to 10 minutes. And we need to be better in all areas, but truly to dominate a game. Though until Hall, Tina, and Wissa get back, yeah, it'll be difficult to do that. Yeah, I agree. Aaron says we rely heavily on our fullbacks to get forward, keep the ball in attack. It's not great we are relying on trips and burn as much as we are. And I think Eddie Howe, that's a good segue, actually. I'm going to get back to that point. I'm going to start that point because Eddie Howe is trying to avoid having to rely on our fullbacks. And that's where Voltamada and us playing centrally is becoming more and more important. And why maybe why people sense that we're stopping our passes is because we're having to pass a lot into dangerous area, which is the central area, which is the hardest part of the pitch to play, right? Imagine a team played against Newcastle. They didn't have the greatest fullback, so they had to switch it and play centrally. What, you're going to get past Gordon and Voltamada first, our frontline defence, and then you have to get past our midfield of Joe Linton, Tonali. Hopefully then you get then you got Tonali, not Tonali, you got Botman and Chow. It's not easy, but that's what Newcastle kept on doing. Bobojo, good to see you. God bless you. How does it feel being number one? Let me know. Let me know. Hey Phil, hello chat. I see a lot of high scores in the chat. Not so sure anyone will get much joy out of playing these Frank's Spurs iteration. In my opinion, they are good defensively. They are. We're going to talk about that, Bobojo. They've got some really impressive stats. Really impressive stats. Liam says, meant our best midfield is Bruno, Tonali, and Ramsey. Okay. Only one player. Big Joe needs to sit for a few games. Miley wasn't at his best. Okay. Yeah. I thought there was good and bad parts. I think, especially in the second half, Fulham doubled up. And we're going to talk about it. They doubled up, especially on the wings with the introduction of Kevin. And that stretched the game a lot. And Tonali came in and brought in a lot of more energy. But I think Joe Linton was very, very important in that game. And I'm going to talk about it in a moment. Both you and Aaron kind of hinted towards it. Ginesta says, I think Murphy's forcing shots early, forcing shots early, crosses when it could have been better to circulate the ball to wait for a clear gap. Murphy is also not scanning enough when receiving the ball facing our goal. That can happen with Murphy, but in terms of shots and shooting early, I think that's the plan. I think that's an instruction. I think in a game where exactly what you're saying, circulate the ball. Everybody's circulating the ball, and most teams on their right wing have left-footed wingers, whereas we've got a right-footed right winger. And so the advantage is that you can get across the board in early. And there were some moments in there, had it not been for some good Fulham defending, we could have got those goals, honestly. So I'm not too much against Murphy shooting or scoring early. I think he's decisive. Liam says difference maker wasn't a Newcastle player. Bassi was gifting chances. I think he was, but he was also forced into those chances, right? Like Murphy pressed him. We pressed that Fulham team and we took those chances. Ilanga pressed him for the second goal. It wasn't that. I disagree with that one, Liam. I do think we forced that turnover, both those turnovers actually. Janessa says yes, could be what the coaching staff want to see from Murphy. To be fair, yeah. Okay, so we talked a bit about Joe Linton. We talked a bit about that area in terms of what we're doing. So this is just my thoughts, and I'll get what you guys are saying. Harry's going to join us in about 20 minutes or so as well. So I want to make sure I say what I want to say before he gets here. So this is, yeah. So look, this is Joe Linton's heat map. We're going to go to the passing map in a moment as well. But I just want to be able to talk about positioning and what the team were doing. This is Joe Linton's heat map for those that are watching, and this is from going from my left to the right, so that way, right? So attacking that way. So what you can see, there's three main really hot, big hot areas, right? There's little patches everywhere else, but there's really hot areas, right? One very, very centrally, and towards the final third, and one just behind that as well. And that's when Joe Linton is joining in the attack with Voltemada, but also, and we're going to see Voltemada's heat map in a moment, when Voltemada is essentially dropping into that midfield, as we see a lot now. He's becoming that third or fourth midfielder, fifth midfielder, depends on where we are in that phase of the game at the time, to essentially outnumber the opponent, and to allow us to bring the ball out centrally, especially. When Voltemada drops in, you'll get the likes of Joe Linton, and you're going to see Bruno as well, taking up the spaces just behind Voltemada in becoming that false number 9, that 9 in his half as well, but also supporting Voltemada in the press. The other job that Mr. Joe Linton had to do in that game, and you can see that huge red on the top half of the field, is to defend against both Tete and Traore, especially out of possession, especially when they were on the ball. But out of possession also, he was doing a big job in marking out Lukic. That was a big personal battle between him and Lukic. But in the other times, he was supporting and shielding and screening Mr. Byrne against Traore and Tete. I want to, if I get a chance, I'll see Tete's average position at some point. I wonder if his movement was limited, like he didn't get much joy, because what that prevented, not all the time, because Traore has got pace. He did get one or two crosses in and a shot in as well. But I think he was limited by the work rate of Joe Linton. And you see Joe Linton also joining in into these central areas as well, where at times we would almost form a box midfield with either Joe Linton, Miley, Voltemada, and Bruno, or Gordon sometimes will drop in and Joe Linton will go out wide, depending on who else. And so you see Joe Linton really, really having to work very, very hard in a 1v1 duels with Lukic, and to screen and protect Byrne against the likes of Traore and Mr. Tete as well. So for me, I thought Joe Linton did that really, really well. And I think his SOFA score, it depends on how you feel about SOFA scores, accurate or not accurate, but I think it fairly reflects that. And this goes more towards kind of the central area, a kind of conversation we're talking about as well. So these are the heat maps for our midfielders, right? I'm going to see in what they were doing and what they were playing. We talked about Joe Linton taking up those central areas, but also screening Byrne. I'm going to hop over to Miley before I go on to Bruno, because Miley was also, you can see the two red dots there, was also doing a job in protecting our back line, but also joining in the defending and screening of Byrne, right? So it allowed, at least, because even though Gordon was doing that a lot, we wanted to see Gordon at least attacking the other side as well. So either Miley and Joe Linton, or just Miley, will be coming in to protect Byrne as well, and sitting in, almost forming a defensive back five in order to prevent, or at least to limit, Mr. Traore and Tete on the overlaps. And eventually Fulham did score from out wide when Kevin joined in with, was it Tete? was it Kevin and Tete, on those flags, caused the overload and hit the ball across the pitch onto I forgot the gentleman's name, but he went to Lukic eventually, right? And that's when Newcastle. That's the moment that Newcastle have been trying to prevent all game, and I think we're still fairly unlucky not to prevent it because that ball, when it came in, it just went over Chow's foot, and I think otherwise Chow could have cleared it. So that's what Miley's job was. And in the second half, when he was substituted, I think he did. I think Liam was right. I think he ran out a little bit of gas, but also there was Fulham added another man into that midfield. Yet Iwobi going centrally with Jimenez, with Kevin, and I want to say Tete. I can't remember who the other guys on the left was. On that side, and there was another gentleman on the right side. On the other side, and so there was the causes overload on Newcastle, where actually they threatened to score the game before that. And also Bruno. Bruno was, you can see the heat map here, that's big red patches, especially spending a lot of time in the final third or in the third of the opponent's half, again joining into the attack with Voltemada, but also going up as a false nine instead of Voltemada. And being the forward player as well, and joining the press, as well as then joining back into the midfield and doing his defensive duty as well as playing the ball out from out the back. Let me put my full phone on Brighton on vibrate. Okay, so a lot of our positioning from our midfield positioning was in those central areas. Is what I'm trying to say, and we were working the ball as well in those central areas as well. And we're going to show the passing map quickly as well at one stage. So I wanted to add Nick Voltemada into this. And you can see actually Nick is on the far right screen here. I've kept Joe Linton and Bruno to kind of maintain kind of what I'm saying. Where you see Voltemada, now you see obviously heating everywhere, but the red hot heat, the main one, there's only one patch and it's tilted toward the right side of the midfield. And it's not really it's just getting into the final third, but not quite, maybe just somewhere in the middle of the final third and middle third, really. And he was adding those numbers into the midfield areas to help the ball to progress. So he will drop in, and the likes of, like I said, Bruno, you see that big red heating map there, and Joe Linton will be going into his place, those red hot parts there, and taking up his position instead in order to receive the ball once, because once he collects the ball in his exceptional link-up play, either he gets it out wide or passes it through the centre. And that's what caused the goals against Fulham, actually, where if I get the chance to get to, where is it? I did save it, actually, where you would see the goal from us. Actually, I will show the goal. And this is what I mean, because it actually highlights what I'm talking about, and then I'll get to the chat. Because that's how we got the goal eventually as well. So let me see if I can get this onto you guys, because that's how our first goal came as well. So not only were we doing it out of possession, we were doing it in possession as well. So Newcastle United, and apologies guys if I'm talking a little bit fast. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast. It's only because I want to be ready for when Harry gets here, but I want to kind of focus in on this Newcastle really concentrating on those central areas, out of possession, but also in possession, the goals that we scored, because to kind of take off that volume. Let me go back 1 minute. That's extended. That's okay. So let me get it here. Let me show you guys. So let me come off here. Let me share my screen. No, don't take myself off. That's crazy. Newcastle scoring. Is it this one? Let me see. Where are you? Google Chrome. Right, let's just put it on here. So share this tab instead. Let me sure you guys can see that. Newcastle's attacks will also focus centrally. So, all right. So, there was a one-on-one as well. So, yeah, we saw the turnover. This is obviously not going to be able to show too much, but Bassi on the ball here, us being central, he slips, Jacob gets the ball off him and scores. There's another attack though when Jacob is one-on-one with the keeper that again highlights why we were so good. Now, while we were focused on attacking centrally. So let me just show you guys. Let me make sure it gets this. So this is actually us getting the ball in our own half. Make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you can. So this is us getting the ball in our own half. You can see here, this is Bruno. Now the ball's come from him. I don't know if that's on the right, is Botman or not. Even Miley's on that side, and he's now joined him, right? You can see Jacob Murphy absolutely launching himself on that flank. But guess who drops into that midfield area? It's here. It's number 27, Voltemada. Right next to number 7, Mr. Joe Linton himself, with Gordon not too far away from them, joining them centrally. And obviously the players on the right side, so you're going to get the players shifting over. But the point is, our main striker, our number 9, who's number 27, has dropped into that midfield area that we were talking about with. Now, Bruno gets himself onto the ball, and he's able to turn, because he's that good. Gets himself to turn. Voltemada stays where he have. Now, you can see Joe Linton here. He looks up before he gets the ball. He looks up. Jacob Murphy's made the run. Gordon's about to make the run. Voltemada, they're all Jacob Murphy and Gordon are running towards the goal. Voltemada is running towards Bruno, and that's going to be key here in terms of how Newcastle are playing. Again, Bruno turns. Voltemada looks at Mr. Joe Linton. Joe Linton looks at Voltemada. Gordon and Jacob Murphy continue to run. Let's see. Bruno gets the ball over again. Voltemada's body positioning. He's heading towards the ball. The ball comes to Joe Linton. He looks up again. This time, Voltemada maintains his position, central position. He's acting as that next, providing the overload, whilst Jacob Murphy and Gordon are about to make those runs into the opponent's half. Joe Linton gets on it. What does Voltemada say? Give me the ball. Give me the ball. His whole body, everything is focused towards Joe Linton. Everything is central at this point. Gordon is central. Jacob Murphy obviously is on the right flank. Gordon is central. Voltemada is central. And what have you already got here? Murphy, Voltemada, and Gordon against 2 Fulham players, while the Fulham 4 midfielders are out of position. Joe Linton gets onto the ball. The overload is done. Joe Linton gets onto. Okay, so apologies. There's 3 Fulham midfielders with 3 on 3 against Newcastle midfielder. 3 on 3 Newcastle attackers, with Joe Linton about to join in. Now he looks at Gordon. Gordon gets further centrally. He knows that there's a third man run here from Jacob Murphy that continues to go on. Everything maintained centrally. Joe Linton lays the ball off to Gordon. First touch from Gordon. Fulham tried to step up. I don't know what Diop is doing there. He ruins it for everybody for Fulham. And the ball goes right through to Jacob Murphy. He's one-on-one with the keeper, where we know that he didn't score. But my point being is that Newcastle, out of possession, in possession, did focus their attacks centrally through Fulham. And this is very difficult to do. And that's what was, and I think that's what we were seeing a lot like. Maybe that's what people feel. I don't know what people are when they're saying our passing wasn't that great, but I think we were focused really, really hard on that in those central areas. We didn't want to get over flooded by Fulham. We wanted to protect our fullbacks against Traore and Tete, which we did successfully. Voltemada was a false 9, but really kind of was an attacking midfielder almost. Spending a lot of time in those central areas. On that right side on this heat map here, where actually he was seen in that same attack. And I think that was the focus of Newcastle's game plan. We didn't do something too dissimilar against Forest, actually. We were playing like a 2-3-2-3 against Forest, doing very, very central attacks as well. Sandro Tonali obviously came on in the second half, and you can see from the heat map here, there's not too much heat because he came in the last 20, 30 minutes, but you can see him actually pushing up into the attack. He became that midfielder that was coming in from deep. So Newcastle's 5-man attack turned into 6 with Tonali, and that's why we pushed it. That's how we pushed the game towards Fulham, and that pressure eventually told. Let me go to the XG map quickly before I go to the chats as well, because it kind of again highlights a little bit about what I was kind of discussing with you guys. Okay, and I'll get to the next G map. Let me get to the pass map first, and then I'll touch a little bit on the G map. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So just before I actually talk about Newcastle, let me talk about Fulham, because this is what Fulham were trying to do away. So this is Fulham, right? And again, for the folks that haven't seen pass maps before, the thicker the lines, the more those players interacted via passing with each other. So you can see here, for instance, the goalkeeper being Leno and Diop, they had 24 passes through the whole game to each other. So the line is really thick. Obviously, the thinner the line, the less passes that were made. And when we're looking at Fulham from the attacking perspective, obviously those lines get a lot more thinner in those central areas. But the main attacking point was Mr. Traore here, who was pushing up. And Tete was constantly feeding him. 13 passes here from him. Also, Lukic joining in, hence Joe Linton was there. 7 passes from him, 7 passes from Berger. So Traore, they were constantly trying to get the ball out to Traore, because they wanted to get Traore in a one-on-one versus Burn. Hence why Joe Linton covering, Gordon covering, Miley covering were all really, really, really important to Newcastle. And you can see them, he was pretty much I was going to say the furthest one up. Jimenez was there as well, but he was acting like as a focal point as well, Jimenez. He had the 1 or 2 half chances, Jimenez as well. But that was the main threat that I think Fulham were trying to use. Newcastle a little bit more widespread, a lot more expansive, in comparison to Fulham as well. We tried to get our fullbacks up. Funny enough, though, Burn average position was pretty much on the halfway line. So he was working very, very hard to form these triangles with Joe Linton and Gordon to get Gordon up there. So, between Burn and there was 9 passes between Gordon and Joe Linton. For most of the game, you see almost twice as much when it's Lewis Hall playing. That's the importance of Lewis Hall. Joe Linton joining in and getting 10 passes between him and Gordon as well as Miley, I think it was. Yeah, Miley. So Gordon didn't have too much to work with there. A lot of his work was off the ball. Even when he did get the chance to crosses, that's the one thing I did feel like we needed to work on, was to have a little bit more players in the box, especially when Gordon was driving down the flank. We didn't do that enough, I feel, as well. We could have done that a little bit better. But otherwise, Kieran Trippier on the other side, speaking of our fullbacks, he was connecting a lot where is it? Mainly with Bruno, 12 passes between them, 11 passes between Bruno and Trippier and Murphy. But Fulham did really, really well in terms of reducing the amount of kind of influence Trippier had down that side as well. Those passes, he's a little bit more influential in games as well. So it's quite widespread what we were doing. And obviously Voltemada mainly connecting with Bruno and with Murphy, really. So his chances were limited. A lot of our work, as I was mentioning, was done through those central areas. It was a tough game. I know folks didn't like it. Some folks didn't like the sloppiness or whatnot. But I have to disagree. I feel like a lot of our metrics and what we were doing, and you can saw from the heating map, you can see from the passing map, Newcastle working very, very hard through those central areas. Joe Linton, Bruno, and Miley really in those central areas, pushing up with Voltemada, causing those overloads in the central areas and working together whilst trying to engage with Murphy on the right and Gordon on the left, and we were free to do so. That seemed to be the main game plan. And obviously, I think Botman is the sweeper between him and Chow was the main presser as well. He had a really, really, really good game. So all in all, for me, I was quite positive about Newcastle's game. I think we would deserve victors through the chances we created, through the passing metrics, through the ground and aerial duels, and individual displays. I think Newcastle were the deserved victors in that game. But let me know, guys, what you guys' final thoughts are on that game. Let me know who your man of the match was. I'm going to read the chats in and see what you guys are saying, and then we'll hopefully get onto our preview against Tottenham. Be a lovely segue. Wobblejog says, hey Phil, hello chat. I see a lot of high. Oh no, not sure anyone will get much. Oh no, I think I read that one already. So let me go a little bit more forward. Where are you? Wobblejog says, I've actually checked out of YouTube every stream is AFC must win the league. I know we haven't hit game week 10 and everyone is losing their mind, in my opinion. So many twists and turns for this league, you'll see. 100%. I don't think the table is set at all. Aaron says, I was disappointed as well. Ramsey didn't get minutes, wanted him to start and deserved to, in my opinion. Hope to see him start tomorrow. That could be a big one. I do think that could be something that could happen. Aaron says, I noticed Nick dropping to that right side at times because of Fulham 6 occupying that space. Interesting to see if that's what we do because we lacked runners essentially, which is what we needed. Did we lack runners essentially? I thought Bruno and Joe Linton did that quite a bit, and Tonali later on. Let me know what you mean by that, Aaron. It's not Shaw. Geniesa says Shaw and Chow pushed up the defensive line last 25 minutes, which allowed Sandro to operate. Yes, that's true. To operate higher up. Chow was sweeping up everything. He's a monster. He's an absolute monster. And he loves playing for the two. Aaron says Chow was brilliant. Sweeping helped us sustain possession and covered for trips. Yes. And crossed the line. A monstrous display from him. Absolutely. All right, folks. For me, man of the match, I'm going to give it to Bruno. I think he dragged us over the line. Though I do think we could have finished the game a lot sooner. Like, Liam says, obviously we could have been 2-3-0 up in the first half and cruising, but we chose not to score goals. Goals change games at the end of the day. So for me, it was Bruno. Let me know who your man of the match is. And look, let's keep this game in mind. It's only 3 or 4 days, before tomorrow where we play Tottenham. So let's think about that form now. Obviously, 2 games won now, Benfica and Fulham. Going again now into the Tottenham game where we're going to do this match preview and think about that as we're doing it. But as we go into the second half of the show, we're doing the match preview for the Tottenham game. Who better than to introduce my guest, Harry, who's one of the first people when I first started doing YouTube who really, really helped and supported me doing big projects, like at the beginning of the transfer window season, everything else. Super, super helpful. As well, a gentleman with his own incredible channel and everything that he's doing. I'm sure he gets us a lot, but at his age of what he started, absolutely incredible stuff. Like, to be that young, to be that relentless and purposeful in what he's doing is absolutely phenomenal. So it always gives me a joy and it always gives me a pleasure, not only to invite Harry, but to have these incredible conversations with him. Scott, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm so good, thank you. What an intro. I mean, wow, that's give me buzz for tonight. Thank you so much. Just honestly, so kind of you. And it's great to talk to you. And I really do remember, my memory's not great, so, this should mean a lot. I remember, when you started, right at the beginning and that project I was involved in. And honestly, it was so fantastic to see it come out. And no, you've grown massively since then. And there's absolutely no surprise. You talk common sense, say how it is. And I love the analysis and tactics. And no, honestly, you should be talking about yourself. Some great content. It's a pleasure again to be on tonight. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir. And I know that you're a busy man, but highly in demand. So I'm going to try and squeeze as much Tottenham stuff from you as possible in
Take
the
your
time that
time.
we're doing it in. So really looking forward to it. Now I'm gonna get my own, because I do love my slides, and then I'm gonna ask you to add some content. This is all Newcastle Fulham stuff, right? So I hope you love the thumbnail, by the way.
I love it. Honestly, it's fantastic. It's great. Absolutely, mate, bring a smile to my face now. I just think it's fantastic.
Brilliant. So this is Tottenham, and I wanted to, because I have to highlight this, because sometimes I have to almost go out of my way to kind of understand where teams are coming from, because narratives are narratives, right? I know, obviously, I spend a lot of time on Spurs Kings, big up to Spurs Kings and everything else. So I feel like the Tottenham fan base is split between, this is boring football, I don't care if we're getting games on the line. And some are even going to the extent of saying we're lucky to get the results that we're getting. So I had to dig deep before I got you on. I'm going to get your kind of views and perspective on this. But essentially, I want to remind folks where is it? So I'm going to get to it. Where is it? There's Newcastle. Right. So just to remind folks that Tottenham are what position in the table again?
I think we're third, aren't we now?
Third in the table. I know you've scored 17 goals and you conceded 7. Overall, obviously, this is just focusing on the league. You've got 9 goals, 9 games, 4 at home, 5 away. You've scored a total of, which is interesting, you scored 5 goals at home. We'll talk about that in a moment. And you've scored 12 goals away. Jeez Louise. You've conceded 4 goals at home, and you've conceded 3 goals away, which is really good. Really good. Total XG at home, so total expected goals from the chances you create is 4. So that's kind of in line. That's essentially in line with what your goals are in line with what you're creating. Whereas the away is you've scored 12 goals, but your expected XG is around 5.87, so around getting to about 6 goals. So I would say you're essentially exceeding your chance created by 6 goals, like twice as much. Just going back to your home form, why is it's coming across that you're not very attacking, or you're not creating much, and you're not scoring that much? Like, what's going on?
Great questions. So firstly, I think away from home, we've been great. So honestly, really happy. You go away from home, you can shut up shop and get performances. Thank you. And I think that's massive. I think no team can have any level of success, if they don't get results on the road. It's really tough. So I think in a way, I don't say it's easy. We've got the easy job to do now, improve in front of your home supporters. For me, I don't think it's a simple issue, and I don't think there's a simple solution to it. I think for me, little things like, at home, fans have a little bit more of an expectation of how to play. So I think there could be an element of Thomas Frank trying to tweak a few things. It's simply not going right. But for me, we seem to, at the moment, to caveat that, play the same way home and away. So Paolini and Bentancur starting together, which is interesting. And I just think Wolves at home, for example, where we somehow scrape a draw out of it, which we didn't deserve. It's still not a good result now looking back, but it's better than what could have been even worse. Yeah. But do they really need to both be starting together? Look at Wolves' results before that, also after. Do you need to be that kind of conservative, that kind of defensive? That's the questions that fans have. So if they're at home, there's a bit more pressure on the team, on Frank to A, play a certain way, and B, to perform. And I just think simple things like go back to last season. Vicario, was heckled a little bit by supporters to stop playing out from the back, because we often, especially at home towards the latter end of last season under Ange, where confidence was low in the league, gave the ball away, and we conceded goals from doing actually what we originally done best under Ange. So there used to be a pressure from fans. So Vicario was forced to go long. I remember this moment in particular. Vicario was forced to go long, so they play out from the back. He put it out play. I can't remember who the opponent was. It's someone like Wolf, somebody of that level. And they take the throw in quick and they score from it. it. And Anshad after the game, I don't want to be disrespectful, is what he's kind of saying, but the fans, forced Vicario to go long. It's not what we wanted. So that pressure, being frustrated, and I'm clutching at straws here. But the point is, I think there's added fan pressure, and Spurs fans seem to have this. And if I'm honest with you, it's slightly weird of playing a certain way. For me, football's a results-based business. Performances matter because results will catch up with you. Look at Liverpool, get away with it for quite a few games. Now the results are catching up with them. So the performances matter for the long term, but managers' job and a team's success, whether it be in a season or long term, is judged off results. Nobody's going to look back, are they? Remember, Tottenham played well. Let's say play really well against. Look at Everton. It's a good example. Everton and Tottenham. Everton played really well. No one's going to remember that. They just look at the scoreline and go, lost 3-0. What's going on? What's David Moyes thinking? They would look at, in 6 weeks' time, how Everton played. Do you see what I mean? It's results-based business that any team or manager is judged off. So there's no simple solution. Going around the clock here, I just think little things like home atmosphere has to be better. Need to get behind the team. I think we need to be slightly more attacking at home and not sit behind the bus. I think sit back. And a lot of it is also, mate, that teams come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and they sit back, whereas they're more expansive and open and explore a bit more at home. So they kind of, do the opposite. Well, they kind of do what we do in terms of they sit back. So I just think a lot of it is the way opponents treat the game. And of course, Tottenham, the pitch is wider. So there's a lot of things. The atmosphere certainly won't help. The added pressure. I think the style of play is always more difficult to play at home because if you're this really defensive team that aren't easy on the eye, it's so much easier to go to the Etihad and do it than it is the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at home to Wolves in terms of fan pleasing, team pleasing. So the majority of teams that Tottenham played at home this year, not all, majority have sat in. Aston Villa sat in. Even Bournemouth, who I was surprised at. They did play us out the park when they had the ball. They counter-attacked. They were clever. Wolves sat in. We have yet to have, and I could be wrong about this, a team that's come and dominated in terms of possession and gone at Tottenham like, dagger in the throat kind of attack. That'd be interesting. That will change with Chelsea, by the way, at the weekend. So, I've had an awful long answer to your questions. So sorry, but numerous other things. But I think it can be fixed with a couple of, little tweaks and changes here and there.
Hey, we love the context here. We love the context. And that's your home form. Now, your away form is totally different. It is and it isn't. So you're creating enough chance to score at least 7 goals, right? No, you're at least 6 goals, but you're getting twice as much in 12. So I guess the question is, are you lucky, or like, what is it? Why is there such a big discrepancy between your level of creation as is on the metrics? Obviously, but we can't see what is. I don't see the games. You're seeing the games. Are you getting into the box a lot more? But maybe it's just half chances that's not coming off. Like, why is it such a? Are you just really clinical with the limited chance that you have? What's happening?
I think a lot of it is, and I said this on a show before here, and I'll say it again. If you said to Tottenham and Thomas Frank, no set pieces this season, they don't count, and you can't have Mohamed Kudus, we'd really, really struggle. Everything's come through set pieces, from dance-so long throw-ins to corners. I mean, look at that Everton game, for example. 2 goals come from corners, and we get that Papsar goal late, but that goal only happens because Everton overcommit. They make an attacking change, which is actually unlike David Moyes, because they recognise 2-0 down, and we knew as Spurs fans, if Everton score, momentum's with them, and I fully back them to go and at least get a draw. Even we're going into added time, I'm thinking that. 1 goal, 1 moment they make, and they make it difficult towards the end. It's nothing to do with mentality, but it's through the fact we didn't deserve, that win. If I'm honest with you, it wasn't a 3-0 game. People look at that and go, wow, big win for Tottenham. But if you look at it, and I'm happy because it's all about the result, but it wasn't convincing. More accurate would have been a 1-0 win or a draw in that game. So Tottenham have been, yes, A, very clinical, but B, Frank has looked at it. I've always looked at him at Brentford, and I still do, especially now at Tottenham, as what I call cutting-edge manager. He's constantly looking for where he can better his opponent. And he sees, if you listen to him, long throws, he sees it as equivalent to penalty. He admitted that the other day. He sees it as valuable as a penalty. If you just think about that for a minute, every time you give Tottenham a long throw-in near to the box, that's huge. Huge. And we haven't directly necessarily scored from it recently, but we cause problems, we cause teams to think. And you can see how happy the coaching staff are when we get a corner. And the only caveat, negative thing to that is, it always reminds me of, it's a kind of small thing that people do in the cup. I'll never forget. It was I think it was at Wembley. Tottenham played AFC Wimbledon in the FA Cup, and they cheered like they scored a goal every corner. It felt a little bit like that at the moment, and we're thinking, hang on, are we AFC Wimbledon? But the point is, Mohamed Kudus, everything's gone through him. I remember the conversation: is he going to get into the Spurs team over Brennan Johnson? The question is now, can we actually score or assist apart from coming through Kudus? And even if he's not getting that, people look at Everton game. He didn't directly get a goal or assist, but he created. He won the corner. 2, he took the corner, which was, he says, a goal involvement. He got a goal involvement and caused the corner. For me, it's involved in 2 goals. That's the thing. So, he's absolutely huge. So to be honest with you, mate, even as a Spurs fan, me, I'm totally honest, say it how it is. We've been incredibly lucky. These performances haven't transpired into results. It almost feels inevitable that they will catch up on us. I'm happy we're getting by. The only thing is, surely you improve. Frank has said we need to improve offensively. And to be fair, I will say I was happy with Ange and the job he'd done because we won the Europa League. But now I look back and go, it's probably the right decision. But not only that, 17th place in the league, of course, unacceptable. But the amount of goals we conceded, I mean, I'm not even a Tottenham fan, right? But you would admit how many goals did Tottenham concede? It's absolutely insane, wasn't it? Every time an opposition went forward, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. So Frank's number one priority was clear, before he even had to say it. He's now said it since. Would concede less goals eventually, and then keep clean sheets. And he's done that. Do you know what? I'd love to see the statistics. I don't know at the top of my head, but I swear more than half the games this season we've kept a clean sheet. That is not bad at all. That's impressive.
Very good.
And I think, it's good. We're taking advantage of set pieces, and they literally neglected them last year. He said he doesn't see the point of a set piece coach. He said, these are his words, set pieces don't win games. And they're not a result of losing games too. The amount of games we lost because of set pieces, I used to think, am I hearing things? Am I hearing voices in my head? So credit to Frank. Tottenham's 2 biggest problems for me were set pieces and conceding goals from individual errors and high line. He scrapped that. That's great. The only thing is we've got worse going forward. So hopefully that will improve over time.
Well, it was incredible about that last season is you were one of the highest goal scoring teams, but the one of the highest goals conceded. And for a fan, that's just insane.
Value for money.
Right. And so it feels like Tottenham went from almost, maybe it's too early to say, but we're going to talk about Frank in a minute. Almost went from one extreme to the other, right? Wild West Street of out style to now Mr. Very, very efficient. So speaking of Frank, so this is I was trying to map out Tottenham's progression. Obviously, you've had pre-season with Frank. Did you have pre-season with Frank? You had pre-season with Frank, isn't he? He joined you, yeah. So I didn't include that. So this is the 9 games that you've had, and from Burnley to Everton, right? So this is where your goals, your opponent's goals, your XG created, and your opponent's XG created. And so all in all, what it's saying to us is that Tottenham's this covers. Does this cover the Everton game? It should do. Yes, it covers the Everton game as well. So your attacking peak, Tottenham's most dominant attacking peak was against Burnley. So you created 2.32. You opened the game with the season, right? I think you won it 3-0, right? Your most fortunate win was the away win against Leeds. I watched that game actually, where you scored 2 goals despite creating 0.53 in creation. But you conceded 1.68 in chances. So it's kind of what it's saying is that Leeds should at least got something out of that, essentially. But that's the most fortunate game. Your defensive peak, so the highest point that you got was your best defensive performance in terms of like the teams that you was able to limit was against Aston Villa. But you lost that game 2-1. So that fortune isn't all one way. It is. And looking back at it, I watched that game as well. Actually, Villa scored worldies. These are if you repeat those, you can't repeat those, right? No. You can, but you can't do it like every week. Like Morgan Rogers is going to hit that knuckleball like otherwise we'll be seeing it every week. Then the second goal, that's something out of Pro Evolution. Just that one time hit a volley from, who was that? Matty Cash. Then someone brought it down. Was it Digne that brought it down? But then Bueno took it over and scored.
It's beautiful move all round.
Honestly, so that was a defensive peak. Yeah, it was the game that you lost, and that's how it kind of works out. But your worst performance was against Bournemouth. That was like a deserved loss. Like you didn't generate anything. And Bournemouth got everything. So to me, I guess my question to you is like kind of hearing that back, and you spoke a little bit about fortune and misfortune and whatnot. To me, it kind of says it's not all one way towards Tottenham, and it is the other way a little bit as well.
Yeah.
What's your kind of when you reflect on it that way? Like, what's your kind of overall feel for Tottenham going forward?
It's giving me a little bit more hope, to be honest with you, because I didn't know. I knew some of them, but I didn't know that one, like in particular. I think it was it, against Villa. I knew that they scored 2 worldies, but I didn't know quite how low that actually was, because I didn't see that one. But it's interesting because like the most fortunate win they say there is against Leeds, and I get that because it kind of felt. I mean, you watched it, you may be able to give your thoughts, because I only saw some of it, but it was working. But it looked like one of those games that was like in the balance. It could have gone either way, but Tottenham edge it. But like against Everton, I'd argue they created better chances than us, and they could have even won the game, which sounds mad to say when you win 3-0. But the problem is, and I say it's horrible to say it's a problem in a way, because you never want your team to miss chances, but we haven't really had any games at all, or any moments where you've gone, how have Tottenham not scored that? Not often enough anyway. There were moments, don't get me wrong, Wolves' first half is what stands out to me. I think we had 2 chances that we could have scored, or maybe a little bit unlucky, but it's never you go like under and used to be, how have we not scored? Or you don't get that, and I guess that means we're clinical, which is great.
Yes.
But I also think we've become reliant on one player. I think Bentancur and Paulinho, so many positives to them both playing here. I think there's no secret that we signed Paulinho and we concede less goals. I think it's directly related, as well as Frank, who's a more sensible player, more sensible manager, and a better coach. I think a lot of it is Paulinho comes in, sits in front, and Tottenham haven't had that number 6. And like I said with you, he said set pieces aren't important, but he also said number 6 aren't important in football. He said if I thought they're important, mate, I would have bought one in. That's what he said. So, that shows where he stands with number 6. And I'd say to him, well, mate, look at the goals we conceded. Clearly do need. That's the thing. We conceded, I think, last season, and you might know better than me, second most or first most goals from just corners. The set pieces, I think, was second or third.
Yes,
how could it not be an issue? I literally sat there in the stadium in so many games going, look, we could have won that, or we would have literally factually drawn that if it wasn't down to set pieces. Arsenal, I remember Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we lose 2-0, they scored 2 corners. Yeah, great. Arsenal are good at corners, but you've got to be able to deal with them. But no, these stats are incredibly interesting. I think the performances aren't there. We are a bit one-dimensional in attack, but I'd rather it that way than us. Frank went all out attack at the start, and he went, look, I'm going to focus on the attack, score more goals, win games. And Leaky at the back, that's not good. The number one problem was the defence. He solved that. Now I think he's got the easier job of lining it all up, because Solanke will come back, struggled to really get going at his Spurs career. But I think Kudus puts balls in the box. And I think, Solanke is a different player. He scores a lot of these. Bringing Mawani in, is that a player that could work? So the only thing is we haven't replaced Son. Not many people talk about it, and I'll stick up for Frank here lastly. Maddison is injured, and Kulusevski is injured. Solanke's out. I can't remember the stat, but it's absolutely insane. Something like 74 goal contributions in total for Tottenham, all these players that we've lost this season. It's huge. Kulusevski was, for me, our best player in the first half of last season before he got injured, bang in the halfway point. Maddison, say no more. He's, I get he does go hot and cold, but when he's at his best, he's a good player. And we've got players out up top, so I think that's a big thing. And you lose Son as well. It's right to move him on, but we actually didn't physically bring any left winger into the club. We signed Matis Tel permanently, but Frank said he sees him more as a striker. So make that what you want. But the point is, Frank's doing a great job. Patience is needed, but the performances aren't convincing.
Amazing. We're gonna talk a little bit about Newcastle before we hopefully. I want to have at least 5 or 10 minutes on a little bit of a tactics ball before you're able to go, Harry. There's a question in the chat which you can answer now, but I was going to wait a little bit later, which is from Liam, which is question for Harry: if he plays, who follows Voltemada when he drops deep, Danzo or VVD?
Shall I answer that now? Because I've got an idea.
Sure.
Yeah. So if I had to predict, and Tottenham did do, and we don't often do it under Frank, but man-to-man marking, we did do, I think it was it PSG or Man City? I think it was Man City, and it was Erling Haaland. I could be wrong about that, but that was something we saw completely different. And of course, that was a massive win at the Etihad. And by the way, Haaland, up until forget the last fixture against Aston Villa, the only time he hasn't scored this season against any club in any competition for club or country was Tottenham. And no other club seems to have approached and gone about it with a man-to-man basis. We've seen teams try it. Believe it or not, Aston Villa, they went close to that. They touch tight on Haaland, and it does work. I mean, don't get me wrong, he'll still find room. I think we will do that in this game, but I think it'll be Van de Ven that goes with him. I wouldn't do that. I'd put Danso on him, and I'd leave Paulinho back, and I'd leave Van de Ven back, because Newcastle, in my head, pacey wingers, Van de Ven's got the pace, and Paulinho has got the experience and get a tackle in. Paulinho could be up against quicker players. I trust him to win the ball or commit a foul, take one for the team if he's not the last man, and take a yellow card. So for me, I don't mind how much we commit if we leave one or ideally both of Paulinho and Van de Ven. So the negative of bringing Danso man-to-man with Voltemada is, Danso hasn't had too many minutes. He has recently with Romero being out, but he's not he's not the same level as Van de Ven. I'll put it simply. And if Voltemada's got a little bit of pace about him, then Danso's, he's got no chance. Simple as that. But I think Van de Ven's best at his recovery pace, and you can't recover if you're following, all the way. But with Erling Haaland, there's one point where was it Van de Ven? I can't remember Romero. It was Romero. Yeah, it was Romero who followed Haaland once to his own box, which is absolutely incredible. He went to go and receive the ball off the goalkeeper, and he just chased him. So it was incredible. Never seen anything like that. And then Paulinho sat in. So I think for Tottenham, Paulinho sits in, but this time for Danso is my thinking. But I don't think Frank will do that, but I fully trust what he would do. It just for me makes sense that, let's say, I don't know who Newcastle play, but they've got, you've got pacey options, haven't you? Let's be honest with you, whether it be Barnes, whether it be Gordon, whether it be Elanga, whether it be Murphy, a lot of them, if not all of them, have pace about them, as well as a load of other attributes that are really strong. So for me, it makes sense to bring Van de Ven back, because I love the idea of bringing, because against City, we left Paulinho back. That's a great idea, because City didn't play with Doku in that game. They didn't really have any pace on the wings. But against Newcastle, this potentially couldn't work. Paulinho is great, but he's not got the pace or the legs that he quite have. And example of that is against Villa. I think he got a yellow card in that game a couple of times. So nearly he won the ball. And I thought a couple of years ago, mate, you win that ball. It's just a split second, nothing against you. But that's just, that's what you talk about, those fine margins in football. So, yeah, to answer your question, without going on too much, I think I would put Kevin Danso on Voltemada. I would go 1-to-1 man to mark him, which I think Frank would do. But I think we differ on the player. I think he will go with Van de Ven though instead of Danso.
I think it's going to be a game of chess. It's going to be real, real close. Like you're saying, like Liam's saying, in the problem with the man-to-man press, if he drops deep, that being Danso or Voltemada or Van de Ven, they will have Ramsey or Gordon flying past him. And you talked about like that in terms of, does Paulinho drop in, who catches him? Aaron says Spurs are a good team defensively, going to be tough to break them down. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Newcastle, where Newcastle are at. So as we kind of get into the tactics end of things. So again, in the league, we're going to focus on Newcastle at home, because we're playing at home and you guys are playing, obviously you guys are the ones playing away. Your away form is scary. So let's see what happens there. So
not St James's Park though, I'll tell you that. I reckon it's awful there. As you would know.
But I have to say though, like the home game that we played against you in 1-2-1, we were lucky. You brutalized us in that game. I don't envisage it happen that way again this season, but we were lucky in that one.
Touch and go.
So 9 games, obviously played 5 obviously at home. We've scored 8 goals so far this season at home from those 9 games, with a total XG of 9. So could, according to the chances created, we could have at least one more goal. With total number of goals created against us, XG wise, is 5, where we conceded 6. So if you look at it that way, you could say our teams are perhaps a little bit lucky to score at least one goal against us so far this season. We're scoring on average nearly 1.82 goals a game at home, so nearly 2 goals a game, so quite high scoring. Whereas for our XG anyway, so that's our XG, but we're scoring about 1.6. So we're getting better offensively at home. Where our XG, we're conceding a little bit more now. We were conceding a little bit less, so we're expected from the chances created against us and the goals that we're created against, teams are beginning to score. And we're beginning to get to the point where we're expected to concede at least a goal a game, which wasn't happening at least 2 games ago. So what that is about, I'm not quite sure just yet.
Is it,
Um,
sorry to interrupt, do you think
yeah,
it's to
yeah.
do with the fullbacks? I know they've been out a little bit longer than that, but do you think over time maybe you lose your fullbacks? Because I just, from watching Newcastle, I could be completely wrong, but I just feel there's some kind of pressure on your wingers to track back a little bit more, but also on your midfield to be slightly deeper. And I watching Newcastle, I watched your first game of the season and I watched your last. I just thought you were a little bit deeper in that game. Might just be adapted to the opponent, or it might have been I'm wrong and looking at it incorrectly, but I just think you're a little bit deeper. Is that maybe to make up for, like, Dan Bird at left back, of course, hasn't got the pace, and maybe you adapt a little bit, and does that lead into, when you sit back, as you will know, it creates more pressure on your own team?
I think you've got your finger on the pulse there. We're literally just talking about that. So against, for instance, Fulham, where they've got Traore on the right side and Tete in particular, and they were using that side a lot. Dan Burn was on that side. It just makes sense to target Dan Burn. The best thing you want is Traore and a one-on-one with Dan Burn. So we had a lot was Mr. Joe Linton and Gordon and Miley spending a lot of time down that left side screening or protecting Dan Burn. That takes away a little bit from obviously Gordon being able to attack, but it was needed. So what happens a lot of the times, we're forced, in this game in particular, we're forced to attack centrally a lot more, which we did. So Voltemada drops in, and you start creating these box midfield with Voltemada, Joe Linton, Bruno, Miley, or kind of various names stopping around that. But the idea is that we attack more centrally rather than the flanks. So if we lose the ball going up, we would lose it centrally, and the team would have to respond likewise. So if we lose the ball going down the flanks, we've got Mr. Byrne in trouble down the flanks, if that makes sense. So that's how it was kind of working out, and that's been the focus. But I mean, we were just talking with the chat. A lot of people didn't like the way we played, and we saw True Geordie make a post saying that we were awful at passing, we were awful at crossing. But then when you look at our metrics, Newcastle's was 84% pass accuracy, 75% pass accuracy in the opponent's half. We had 30 plus 35 touches in the opponent's half, in the opponent's box, about 10 plus shots in the opponent's box. So, it's almost a bit like the Tottenham problem. People don't like the way you're playing, but you're playing and you're being efficient. And we're actually, in the metrics wise, we're doing what we're supposed to do. People might not like it, but it's working. So I don't know what to say. Like, our XG was 2, we scored 2. So what that means is, by design, Newcastle's attack was worthy of the 2 goals that we got in return. So I don't know what else Eddie Howe can do.
No.
In that game.
But the thing is, you will know this as well, that being clinical is so important in football. It's easy to, I say easy, it's not, but you get the point. The easier part is to create chances. But Brighton is a prime example. Under whatever manager you choose, how many times over the past seasons and games have they created chances but not been clinical? So look, Graham Potter, it's a story of his time. Changed a little bit under De Zerbi. They've become more clinical. But even more recently under Hertz, I think game against Tottenham, for example, how didn't they get that third in that second half? They're just not clinical. It's been a story with Brighton for so many times. João Pedro is a great example. Gets in good positions. Like Chelsea's got no return so far, no goals, but he's got into dangerous positions. So a lot of it is fans have this way they want to play, but whether it be Thomas Frank at Tottenham or Eddie Howe at Newcastle, they'll be judged on the points at the end of the year and how you progress in competitions. You won't remember performances unless they're significant, like Europa League final, for example, for Tottenham that we win. We might remember a little bit of the performance. But even now, it's recently, I don't remember too much. I remember Johnson's goal and Van der Ven's clearance off the line that was superb. But you get the point. It's about results. So as a fan, I'm different to most Spurs fans. I don't, as much as, of course, you want to see attractive football, we get results and it wins us trophies and makes us more competitive and hopefully achieves sustained success over time. I'm all for that, whereas I actually think if you survey Spurs fans, a big chunk, if I had to put my neck on the line, probably over a third, would rather play beautiful football, and not win anything or achieve anything than play awful football of, let's say, a Mourinho or a Conte, not saying Frank is at all, but then win trophies. I honestly think that, and that is where, for me, the problem lies. I'm absolutely entitled to your opinion, but how can you win as a club and end this kind of, Spursy tag and being a banter club kind of thing if you have this entitlement to play in a certain way? Because you want to play a certain way, you can only attract a certain type of manager, certain type of player. Do you know what I mean? It limits you. I know fans don't have that big of a say, but I think there's more pressure on Frank than, for example, Ange in his first few games. I know the results are totally different, but if this was an attacking manager, well, I'm not saying Frank again isn't, but if Frank come in, put it this way, is a better way of putting it, and played open attacking football like he has done at Brentford, he'd be given the support, even if we were, 10th in the league. But right now, if we lose both Newcastle and Chelsea, there's already a little bit of pressure on. He felt that Everton game felt significant for him. And he said about that. He hinted towards it and it felt it. It shouldn't feel like that at that stage. People were actually, before the Everton game, suggesting, if we lose again, performances are concerned and is Frank the right man? And I know that's because of the style. There's added pressure. And the club, don't get me wrong, they acted on that fan pressure, my friend, because you look at Mourinho before the cup final. Fans were like, I can't part with this football anymore because we're not winning results. I can part with it when we're winning. And they sacked him. Do you think the club, honestly, would have sacked Mourinho before a cup final if they thought about it and weren't influenced? I know money was probably involved. I do believe that with Levy. But surely you would think if he has the best interest of the club at heart, which he claims to do as a fan, you wouldn't do that. Mourinho's a proven winner. You sack him after the game. Even if you win, it's not what I would have done, but sack him after. I think you learned his lesson with Ange. But the point is, fans have a bigger power on social media and in person than people think. Good example is the protest. The protest against Levy, and he was forced out the door. It does work, fan pressure works.
Well, that's the annoying thing. Now I kind of wish I was playing you guys at Spurs Stadium, but it's going to be it's going to be at St. James's.
I certainly, I don't know what I'd rather, because the James's Park our record's awful, but it might be better than playing at home. Sounds crazy to say.
It's a crazy world at the moment. So I'll go into the tactics board. I want to be able to get your predictions as well before you go. First of all, what do you think the start? I took a guess, but what would be your starting lineup? What would just change from this for Tottenham?
Yeah, just have a look here. I mean, mine would be slightly different to Frank. How I'd approach this game is I'd scrap the number 10 completely and I'd go with a 4-3-3. But I did think you could do like it's difficult. Could you do a 2 and then a 1 in front? I just had a way of thinking it. Do you do 2 number 6 and then 1 8, or you just go with 3 kind of central midfielders and then have Paulinho sit a little bit back? It's difficult because Paulinho and Bentancur have worked really well as a duel. But at the same time, I don't think having a number 10, which is next to the striker or near the striker, is positive for Spurs in this game. I'm going to make a case here, and it probably sounds absolutely crazy, but I don't think there's any point of playing a physical striker for Tottenham. I like Moani, Richarlison, I'm thinking in particular. I don't think there's any point playing him. Newcastle are physical side, even if Dan Burn plays at left back. Whoever you may play, you want the ball in the air. You're an aerial side. You win second balls. So for Tottenham, I think you go ball to feet, and that could be someone like a Matthias Tell. It could be someone that's not an orthodox striker. It might be Moani. He seems to do okay with his feet, but I don't think it can be Richarlison. So it's difficult. But I think that midfield 3 is where that will leave a lot of conversation amongst Spurs fans. In my head, I'd go with Paulinho and Bentancur. I think you have to do that away from home. I think you've got to do that against Chelsea, even though it is at home, because of the significance of it next week. Can they play both games is the thing. See, I just look at what you're doing now. I'd have Bergwijn, I think, either sitting just in front of them, or I'd have him as like a left of a 3. I haven't 100% decided. I've gone backwards and forwards, but
you can
do a 3. Yeah, you suppose you can. Yeah, go with something like that, and maybe swap Paulinho and Bentancur, though it will probably look like that. How you've got it now is how it probably will be. I'm just thinking for the sake of trialing something. So what we've got then, what else would I change? So you've got Kudus. Yeah, I think Tell. On the left, I'll go with Odobert for pace. I think in my predicted lineup for both teams, I had Kraft playing at right back, and I think Odobert, it'll be interesting to see them go 1v1 for both players actually against each other. So I had him on the left. But apart from that, I think everything is right. Don't forget goalkeeper, then we're all good.
Oh, yes. Kinski or Vicario?
Yeah, I'll go Kinski. I mean, when else are you going to see a second goalkeeper? That's what I think.
So you wouldn't start Moani?
I'd want to start Moani, but I think realistically, I'm just thinking about it now because I've changed my mind actually being on here. He's like made his first start last time out. He hasn't started back-to-back games yet. And this is a player that's been, out of the team. It hasn't really worked for him in the past. I just think, has he got in him to play 2 starts? I'd rather say, look, really rate Tell at the moment, if I'm honest with you. Not for now. I think patience is needed and come good. But right now, he's not really offering anything, nor is Southie Simmons. Both completely different situations. But I just think ball to feet against Newcastle and using the flanks is a lot better. And when I say using the flanks, people think, oh, ball's in the box. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you stretch the play, you work opportunities. So I think for Tottenham, you have to be really clever in this game. I think the midfield battle, whoever wins that, of course, has a big chunk of the game. But with you having both fullbacks out and probably going to rotate in that positions, I think down the wings is crucial. So Tottenham, for me, I don't think anything else will work other than Kudus or Odobert. I can't stress how important that is. Kudus against Burn. I was speaking about it on the previous show. Burn's got the experience. And people look at him, and I used to look at him when he used to, before he joined Newcastle, and think, oh, you're lanky. What much have you got about you? Are you just playing because you're in the box? But you look at it a bit more, and that's in particular for England, I noticed, but also for Newcastle. He's not. He's a really clever player. He'll put Kudus where he wants him to be. Kudus has got the pace, but Burn's got the experience. Burn knows where he wants Kudus. Can Kudus get away from that? Tight areas, but Burn also is clever. He knows where to commit the foul, knows when to take one for the team. So, yeah, that would be my team, but be extremely unpopular, I'm sure, among the Spurs fan base to go with Matthias Tell up top. And this is just a one-off kind of scenario, I'm thinking ball to feet.
So who would bring the ball out for you? Is it Danso or Van der Ven? Like, if you wanted to, what would be like the best? What would be like the best kind of attacking moment that Tottenham could prevent? Obviously, you're talking about Burn. Excuse me, isolating Burn. Is Porro still able to get up front high enough? Is he under Frank's system?
Great question. Firstly, I'd say I love where you put Bergvall. I think Bergvall I see as a player is receiving the ball on the half term and turning and creating. And this is so important. I've gone with Bergvall over Sarr because Bergvall has that, a tiny little bit more physicality than Sarr. I love Sarr. He's got the energy, and I'm thinking later that could be key. But I don't necessarily know what midfield three you'll go with, but you have to feel it definitely at least Tonali and Guimaraes will be in there. I don't know about Jolinton, but I think definitely those two will. So Bergvall for me is really important because if you start Pauline and Bentancur, that's great, but you don't want to just be sat in. Because Tottenham's problem was at times, well, it has been throughout the season, we've been just sat in and can't get out. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, we're going to concede. Luckily, we don't. But you just can't have that pressure. You get 10 minutes and you don't get out. That's not good for anyone, if you're a defensive team or not. Bergvall, I think, will be clever. He get his body, win a free kick. So that's why I think Bergvall could be the most significant player for Tottenham in this. Porro, I think, will get forward. I think that's absolutely fine. But the only thing is, if we lose the ball, we have got a little bit of a problem, especially if you do what I said and Danso goes with Fultamada, man to man. I think that's something that'd be really interesting. But Van der Ven I wouldn't have going forward. That's where we do miss Romero's progressive passes and Romero going forward. I'd literally leave Van der Ven back. I know he's got recovery pace. As some would say, put him further forward because he can recover. But I'd have Van der Ven there at all times. With Paulini are very, very close. So Paulini close, and then Kudus coming back a little bit. But we need to really stretch the flanks. It's difficult to see how it looks. Yeah, I'd have it kind of like that, which leaves, of course, Tottenham difficult to get through midfield. So it'd be times where we come inside a little bit, then we quickly play it out to the flanks. But what's difficult about this, when you play Matthias Tell up top, is you can't really put balls in the box. So this is difficult, and it suits Odobert, suits Porro to put the ball in the box. But you know better than I do. I think Newcastle's strength is in the air. So I'm thinking, can we play the ball to Tell? And then Kudus make a little run inside. This is critical. Kudus and Porro, I think, could work so well together. Porro on the overlap, Kudus inside. That side I see us getting the most success to me. But Bentancur could be a really clever kind of cover player. So at times I think you feel like Spurs lack the bodies in midfield because you've got the cover defensively and maybe overcommitting in some areas. So it's difficult, of course. It could be very different when you've got the ball and haven't got the ball.
I think I agree in terms of you being on the ball, but that's why I think Kolo Muani is a better bet than Tell. I haven't seen too much of Tell, but he strikes me as not a aggressive player. And I think Botman, if you're in let me just highlight this if I can. Where is it? Oh, I can't for some reason. Oh no, here we go. Let me just get back to it. So, where is it? So I was going to highlight. I can't see it, but essentially, there's a bit here where these players. This is like the I'll say almost the triangle of doom or the hexagon of doom. Jolinton, Tonali, Botman, Burn, and possibly Gordon. I don't think Tell has the. He's gonna get hit, right? He's gonna get roughed up.
If I'm honest, I had Muani in my team because I created drafts a couple of days in advance. I've had him in my team all week. and in every single one as well, every show I've been in. But I just had the thought when I was trying to connect my mic, I thought just a random time to think about it. I know, slow me down. So apologies if I'm wondering I'm late. I'm sitting there thinking, thinking all the time. But I thought, you're a frustrating player, but I thought I just had this idea of playing ball to feet against Newcastle, and Bergvall is someone I think half term, like I said about, very good on the ball. But to play like that, do you need someone like a Sarr as well? Who's good on the ball. I absolutely agree. Mwani's a more natural fit, but I'm also thinking, let's also be sensible here. I can't remember how many minutes Mwani played. Let's say, I can't remember exactly, it's just really annoying, but 65, 70 minutes he played. That's the first start for Tottenham. Can he do it back to back is what I'm thinking. And a lot of my thinking behind this team, by the way, is I'm already got my head as well in the Chelsea game, part of it, which is never good. I hope Frank isn't the same as me. But I'm thinking of Chelsea and I'm going, I really want Mwani. Chelsea's struggling defensively. I need Mwani in that team. Richarlison's not going to cause a problem. Nor will Tell. I think we need Mwani from the start. And I'm thinking, can he do 3 starts? No. So I play Tell in this game because he can't play in the Champions League. He needs some minutes for his confidence. You just feel like a goal. And he did get a goal against Leeds. But you just feel like hopefully he can get another confidence booster or build on that potential confidence booster he got against Leeds. But Tell, it's a really bold shout. You're right. He's not physical. So it could be really difficult. But all I'm thinking is ball to feet for Tottenham. I don't think we're getting Tell be involved a lot, but Tell could be someone. Here's something for you to think about. Tell could be someone to drag players out. If you drag Botman out, for example, and Chow's fantastic defender, by the way, really, really good. But if you drag Botman out, there's a gap, and that could force Tonali deeper, and that could force the whole of the Newcastle midfield deeper, not where they want to be, which allows Spurs to progress and all of a sudden dictate the game. So that is something potentially there. But Tell, he's not going to be someone who probably scores a lot of goals, but he could give the defender something to think about. Because the reason I also thought about Tell, mate, is that Tell's got a little bit of pace about him, and he does move a lot. There's a lot of movement going on from Tell. It doesn't necessarily lead to anything, but movement. I think he'll frighten that Newcastle back line. You should probably make 1 or 2 changes to rotate, potentially. If you do, that is something that's, could be a case of Newcastle that defence hasn't played with each other as much. It could suit Tell. So it'd be interesting, but someone will need to always be there to support Tell, and he might be able to do better in the box. But I'll play like this. If it doesn't work, then you've got Mwani to bring on, or Richarlison for a bit of physicality. I like the option of going, you can play Richarlison either left wing or striker, or you can bring Mwani on later. A lot of my thinking behind my team is also, who can we influence the game from the bench? And I had in my head Mwani and Sarr as 2 very key players, that, of course, depending on the result. And
I'm going to let you go in a moment, but I was going to say that I think the first 60 minutes for both teams, because we've both got Champions League, we've both got games coming up. I think the first 60 minutes are going to be absolutely vital in this game. I think we do start off with our strongest team. I just thought about your back line here, because I thought if the worst case scenario happens, Kudus gets on the ball, but he drives and, Burn gets it off him, Botman gets it off him, worst case scenario for him. Then you've got Gordon, possibility of Joe Linton. Obviously, Watermada's going to drop in here. That's we literally saw a goal. Well, we had a 1-on-1 with Murphy that he missed, but this is literally how it happened. Watermada drops in, gets the ball, it was from the right side, but he got it from Bruno, but we're on the left side here. So he drops in, gets it over to Joe Linton, and either Gordon or whoever else runs through the middle here, possibly even Tonali gets to by this point as well. And you've got a situation where you've got 2v1, 3v1 situation. What you'd want, I would suspect, is Spence on Murphy.
Yeah, definitely.
Van der Ven, at least being able to march.
Absolutely. Van der Ven on Gordon, had in my head, yes.
That kind of situation. The problem is going to be, though, is if Joe Linton chooses to continue running with the ball.
Right.
Paulinho, either if he's dragged out of position, whoever it is, whether it's Paulinho, Bentacle, whoever is here on Watermada, sticks on Watermada and does not take care of that ball, does not intercept, you don't have. And this is why I think you might have Papi Sarr playing.
Yes, I was going to say 2 things to you. 2 players I want to get your thoughts on. Papi Sarr, firstly, for his energy, for his legs, and he covers a lot of ground. Incredible. but also Archie Gray. If you think about his prime, I say prime, like he said, his career already. Tell you what, start again. His best days at Leeds, disrespect to the player before he even got to it, but at Leeds, his best, he was in midfield. He used to pick up the ball and carry it, just carry and drive. You need that against Newcastle. I can't stress enough. And often I go, yeah, the midfield battle's important, but this game is significant. It literally is. Whatever midfield Newcastle go with, it's, Tonali just has a bit of everything. Don't need to say much about Guimaraes. What a player, both boxes, great captain. And, Tonali is a great player. It's really hard to deal with. But I'm not too worried if you do get in that situation. That, call me crazy, because Van der Ven's got the pace. Spence is electric, and we found that out recently. Danso should be touch tight to Voltemada, and Paulini can just drop. So Van der Ven can always be at right back at times, covering complete the wrong position. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that would work. Yeah, Paulini can be sit back, and they've got Danso and Voltemada, that's right. Van der Ven can deal with Gordon alone, and I think Tottenham deal with that situation. I fully trust Spence with Murphy. But a big role in this is really important as well, is Kudus tracks back right now. So where I would change is I'd have Kudus supported, even if it's a 2v1 against Gordon. I think he is great at defending. I'd have him right back, assisted a bit wider maybe than who is it? Sorry, Van der Ven. I meant, but Kudus where Van der Ven is, but a little bit wider. Yeah, so kind of they work together. Kudus works with Van der Ven actually, and Porro can stay further forward, which is bold, leaving Porro forward. But I think if we win the ball back for that situation, crazy by the way, Newcastle on the counter, Spurs win the ball back, Porro can find himself quite high up. And Kudus has got the pace to catch up with him and then create that overload again. So it's interesting. At times we could see Kudus deeper, in my opinion anyway, than Porro. And Van der Ven could play completely out of position at the right. But I think he's the best player to deal with Gordon in terms of the pace in particular. So bold, but I think you have to be bold to go to St James's Park if you want to get a result. You can't just sit in and be complicit. And you've got to get the balance to show Newcastle respect, know where to defend and shut up shop, take what you have, sit on it. But also you need to be brave. And Tottenham haven't been brave enough going forward. So man-to-man marking, putting players like Porro high and leaving them high, it could be the difference. And Bergbo as well needs to find gaps and find space. A big game for Tell as well. I don't know how it worked for him, but I'm just thinking, Moani, I just don't think it's his type of game. I think he just frustrate him. I think bring him on.
It's going to be... And I think I'm just thinking about what we would need to do, because you got... How do you think Bergval's season has gone? Like, what's your overall impression of Bergval?
Very good. I think he stepped it up another gear this season. I think he's spoken about, like, last season was frustrating in a way for him. And I just think there's something about Bergval. He seems to have got a lot taller as well, by the way, but it's certainly more physical. So I just like, and it seems like bizarre to say that Bergval may be over Sarr for this type of game, but I just think Bergval's got a little bit more strength in him. And there's been times we've brought Bergval on where we haven't been great, like against Wolves, a good example. He gets stuck in, for someone that young, and sometimes a bit on the edge. You think, oh, Bergval's a bit high. You need to be careful. How things go to VAR, etc. But I think Bergval's a very good player. But I think maybe we used him a little bit deeper in this game. I think ditch the idea of Tottenham having a 10. I almost see it now as completely what I've said here, but maybe change it a little bit that Paulini and Bentancur as sixes next to each other in the pivot, a double pivot, and then having Bergval sit just in front as an 8. And it'd be interesting to see play without a 10. Will it work? Will it not? If it doesn't, then you adapt it, of course, in game, ideally. But I just think Bergval is better when deeper, allowing to create and dictate. And a lot of people see Bergval as a 10. I was talking to Ashmatic. He sees Bergval as a 10 and Sarr as an 8. I think that's what he said. But I actually see it the other way round. And which I hate to disagree with him, because I think he's amazing with tactics. And I could be completely wrong, because he knows a lot more with tactics than me. But I just think Sarr is better centrally. More than the 10 position rather than the 8. He's better centrally. Bergval's better when he drops deeper. We talk about on the half term. He's like excellent at picking the ball up and creating. Bergval outside of the foot pass. It reminds me of Maddison. I think one thing that Postecoglou could have done that he didn't with Maddison was either A, play him on the left-hand side for space, or B, drop in a little bit deeper. I just think we live in a maybe modern era as well, but also the way that Tottenham played, where the 10s, it feels like they're playing like a striker duo. I don't want Bergval to be touch tight to Tell. I want Bergval to find the space. It shouldn't be tight. I know a 10 is an attacking midfielder, but it should be times also where he's higher, not just level. So we saw with Dele Alli, his beauty was he dropped deep to dictate, but also, he'd go in behind. So I think Tottenham ditched the idea of a 10. And they just say to Bergval, look, you've got to be deeper and we want you to dictate the game. Because if Tottenham want a period of possession, let's say you've had, you're dominating. Yeah. The player I think you could put their foot on the ball out of anyone in that team is Bergval. A lot of people say, and I think a couple of people said it in the comments, good points as well. With Bentancur, yes, he's great, but Bentancur can only do simple passes. Since he's got injured, originally under Antonio Conte, he was our most important player. We lost the game 4-1 to Leicester. He'd come off at half-time injured. Most important player with Harry Kane at the time. He'd come back and he's been different. Because he got injured again when he come back. Matty Cash injured him, etc. He's changed his game. I think Ange changed it as well. He used to be, believe it or not, Bentancur. I saw him as more of attacking, almost midfielder. And he used to press. He's press resistant and pressed himself. Very good going forward. Whereas now he's a very safe player. Bentancur would do the basics, but if you want to unlock a defence, Bergvall, if you want to be safe, Bentancur, but I actually trust Bergvall a little bit more, although he's not quite as safe, because I think you need to take risks in a game like this. Calculated risks is a key word. So my idea for Tottenham is bold. It might not work, but at the same time, if you go to James's Park and consistently don't get results and you're playing poorly, I think you have to change a few things before it catches up with you, the results. Look at Liverpool. They didn't change anything. The results catch up with them. So if we need to change our different approach, different personnel, completely different tactics.
And I think for us as well, even whilst you were talking, I think it may be Elanga plays instead of Murphy, because we need to make Spence sweat a little bit. We've got a few questions. So I'm going to ask you for your predictions in a moment, Harry. I don't know how long you got left, but I want to get your predictions for the game. We've got a few people with questions as well. Aaron says, I do think we target the left side, which is on Newcastle, with combinations of... So he thinks Ramsey's going to play instead of Joe, I think, of Ramsey and Gordon cutting inside, releasing the Langa in all that space as fast as VDV is. I fancy Langa to get past him. Issue is finding the pass. That would be a race to watch. Because I do think when I see VDV run it, I get the sense of like it's inevitable. Like he's going to get the guy. Like there's an inevitability about him. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think he's actually clocked the fastest speed in the Premier League.
So, but Alanga's quick as well, so it'd be a great duel. But if you play Alanga, that gives my idea a problem because it means that Van der Ven, has got something really to think about. And that's the thing, Van der Ven, if he plays as a left-sided centre-back, which I'm sure will, where he always plays, to get across that right is difficult with the pace of Alanga. He can do it with Gordon. Gordon's a clever and tricky player, by the way. Gordon doesn't need to be electric because he's very clever. People overlook Gordon. I think that's really unfair. If you go with Alanga, that's a different proposition. I back Gordon for the end product. I back Gordon in beating a defender 1v1. I'd back Alanga, of course, for pace. Even against VDV, that could be really interesting. But you play Jacob Ramsey, I think it's a good game to get his confidence, and I like Ramsey. He's a player that I think Villa will regret letting go. I know they were tied up with, financial difficulties, but I think he'll be a really good signing, Ramsey, with time, with just these minutes and get used to the system. But we talk about putting his foot on the ball. Ramsey can do that. I see Ramsey as maybe more of the creative one out of all three. You may disagree with me, but also the one that can, we talk about dictating a little bit. Tonali's great at that, don't get me wrong. Tonali's great at kind of drive in and into the box, but Ramsey's a very key player. So I think if you play Ramsey, assuming he would start, the left side maybe at that midfield, and you have Alanga on probably as well.
Yeah, so he'll be a left eight. What he's really good at is going on the outside and allowing Gordon to drop in inside. So Gordon really likes to have the option of either dropping inside.
He used to start, didn't he, Ramsey as a left winger at times for Villa, and it worked.
Yeah, he didn't. He views himself as a box-to-box midfielder. So Ramsey likes to start off centrally and move out wide. He doesn't want to be started off as outside and having to move out. He doesn't like that. But Gordon doesn't like having to start off wide and moving centrally. He likes to start off. He likes the opposite way around. So that's why they work together so well. So if they start like this, they would. What Gordon really likes to do is either have the option of dropping inside, Ramsey picking up the outside, and Gordon being able to drive through the middle. So they really work together in that way, a little bit even further up the field. Or even if they maintain where they're at, Ramsey's so good at picking up the ball and driving with it, he gives Gordon the option of either sticking out on the right side here, and then you've got this gap here, of which this is the part that's interesting. Does Voldemort play? Or does Osola play? Because in this situation, you'd want Osola, is one of our strikers, is really pacey. Can't find him at the moment here. Here he is. You'd want Osola being able to drive through the middle here if you take off Voldemort. Or you'll have Ramsey driving through, Gordon taking up the inside part here with, where is he? With either one of our midfielders either picking up on the right hand as well, whether it's Tonali or Bruno. And you see this a lot of times. The midfielders coming in from deep and being able to kind of also join in the attacks either on the wide flanks or centrally. The point being is to make Van de Ven have to think twice, not make it so easy for him. But I know Gordon's here, I'm going to force him to the flank. I'm going to drive him out. If he now has to think about both Ramsey and Gordon, that's going to be an issue for him.
I was just going to say that could be really important, couldn't it? Because Burns not going to get forward. Let's be honest with you, can't afford to with his pace, really. So Ramsey could be critical. And I don't get it wrong, the Newcastle midfield is great even without Ramsey, but he could be key. Because like my idea wasn't just to have Van de Ven there. That'd mean that Kudus, maybe we switched the idea that. Well, I think probably Van de Ven and Gordon makes sense, but Kudus might need to help double up. Kudus, I back him defensively. I think he's very, very good. But it's just interesting to talk about, isn't it? Like, usually you think fullback and winger, but Newcastle could do it differently with Ramsey, which would be interesting. But at the same time, if he lost the ball and Ramsey's touch tight almost or further to that left-hand side at left wing, where does that leave Tottenham if we get the ball and Van de Ven drives into that midfield gap and Paulini gets a little bit forward and Bentancur finds gap? So in this game, we could find it really key if whoever wins the ball back and kind of go straight away, which we haven't done under Frank. We haven't really counter too much. To contradict myself almost, that third goal against Everton, I think it's because they overcommitted. We did catch them on the counter.
Okay. Liam, do you think Porro plays? Liam was asking.
I think he has to. A good question, Liam. Big up to you, my friend. I think he has to because Frank C's back on the grass along with Romero, but I'd be crazy, wouldn't it, to start both of them? Because amount of times last season we forced players to play where they weren't fit and got injured. Romero 3 times, Van de Ven 3 times. They keep beating their recovery date by at least a month. And it just feels odd and they go get injured. So stop doing that, I say. So he has to start really because Davis is also out, got injured on international duty. So it'd be Porro at right back, Spencer left back. The only other thing he could do is Spence at right back and Gray at left back. But I don't think he wants to do that, Liam. So I'd say 95% chance Porro starts. He's a player that seems to play a lot and, certainly not feel the effect of it. Again, don't want to jinx it. So thank you very much for the question. There's been some great questions, by the way, tonight. There's some really good ones in there about Porro and in terms of caveat and will Frank make changes more than 4? I think Frank would probably make 3 if I had to commit. I'd probably make 2 myself, but I think he'd make 3.
Liam thinks the game's going to go to penalties.
I wouldn't want to say too much, but that's a really good point.
And finally, Aaron says, I do think it's a game for Ramsey. I see him hugging that left side and Vortamada coming into that space to combine with Gordon and leaving the Elanga in space on that. Yeah, that would be, you might be onto something there. I think that's probably the best combination we can have against Tottenham. All right, guys, do send in your score predictions. I'm going to ask Harry for his score prediction for the game. And I'll give mine as well. But folks, while we're talking, do send in your score predictions and let us know what you're thinking. Harry, we've talked, we've had this. What is your score predictions for tomorrow's League Cup game? Newcastle versus Tottenham at St. James's Park.
Great question. I'm really worried about the game, if I'm honest with you, but I'm trying not to think too much, and I'm thinking that Newcastle maybe rotate a tiny bit. But having said that, how important it is 70 years before we won that Carabao Cup. You won it, and Eddie Howe spoke about how important it is. So I think it'd be difficult. One thing I'm sure about is I have in my head 1-1 draw and it goes to penalties either way. Yeah. I just think, if I'm honest with you, I think you'll play really well and be the better team. But unfortunately for you anyway, I think you will lose on penalties. I think Tottenham lost that PSG shootout against PSG, in the Super Cup. I think we'll be wanting to come back strong. It just feels right to put that kind of penalty record straight. And I think mentality has been a big thing under Frank to never kind of be out of a game, to never give up. And I think that will be a good example of this. So I'll go 4-3 to be specific with Spurs on penalties, but I'd be absolutely lying if I said I'm not worried about the threat that Newcastle pose. So this is me going, it's more that I want than what I think, but I'll get about the team because I didn't against Everton. I thought we'd lose that and we didn't. So I feel awful and I'm trying to make up for it now.
I think we can sneak this game. I think I'll go for a 2-1 to Newcastle. I'll stick with it. I do think the chat convinced me. I do think maybe Elanga starts with Ramsey as well. I think that I'm going to hope that this the goals you're scoring at the moment away from home, I'm hoping that you just stick to the 1 or 0, and we're able to defend against it. I do like Frank's structured approach, but I think it helps us a little bit to be a bit more flexible in our approach as well. So what I'm thinking is that it'll be the first 60 minutes are going to be very, very important. If I think if Tottenham go 2-0 down, for instance, I don't think Frank makes too many decisions with games on the weekend. I think if that happens to us, I think we throw the kitchen sink, because I think the League Cup does mean that much to us as well. And I'm going to hope that our momentum carries us through. And I'm a little bit buoyant by the chances that we are creating. I think Fulham were a good test for us before. They're not obviously not on the same level as Tottenham, but they are a structured team. And I think so that was, no one. I don't think anybody's thinking, "Oh, Fulham today, I'm going to get 3 points." I don't think anybody's usually thinking that. So that was a good pre-game for us before playing you guys. So I'm going to back us to win 2-1 again. We've got a few people saying 1-1, so also saying going to penalties. And Liam was saying going to penalties as well. Aaron says, yeah, he thinks that we get a 2-1 home win as well. Well, folks, we've had an absolutely sensational show tonight. Big up to you, Harry, for joining us. We broke down the game. First of all, we did a review for the Fulham game with you guys. We went down, some folks weren't overly ecstatic over how we played. I thought that we had a really, really good game against Fulham. Maybe it's efficient. Maybe the people don't like the word efficient, but I think it was efficient. Our fullbacks are an issue, but we are working around that at the moment, and so far it's working for us. And then we went on to the Tottenham game. Obviously, we had the incredible Harry joining us and providing so much context for this game as well. Even though I've given a 2-1 prediction, it's not like oh yeah, we're definitely going to win 2-1. There's a lot of hope in that as well. And Harry gave his in the chat as well. Harry, where can yes, when will you? What's the how can the folks find you?
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, can I just say thank you so much? I mean, it's been a long while, actually. Although I've gone on a lot of shows, I don't in-depth talk tactics. I need to get the tactics board back out. But really fascinating to listen when I was in the green room as well to you, and great to talk to you as well about tactics. I wish you all the best. I genuinely mean this, although I don't mean it on Wednesday. Let's say from Thursday, all the best for the rest of the season. But all jokes aside, I used to write football articles for Newcastle, but also Leeds United. But I really enjoyed that, and it was fantastic.
Amazing.
So yeah, even though it was free work, it was honestly great, like kind of what I call almost like work experience, writing. Still write football articles, not just specifically though about Newcastle. But thanks so much for having me. You can follow me at Harry Scarfe 2 across any socials, football content creator, YouTube, such as TikTok or X, etc. Also, my YouTube channel, just under my name, Harry Scarfe, contains so many things. I could bore you from Premier League to England to FPL to everything, Tottenham to Spurs women to England women. It's growing day by day. So thank you to everyone. And honestly, this is why I do what I do. I love coming on here, talking football, talking Tottenham, talking Newcastle, talking tactics. So thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Incredible. There you have it, folks. You've been all absolutely incredible, as always, folks. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.
Brilliant from Cher. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Cher wins!